Hi, everyone. My name is Akila Riley-Richardson, and welcome to Relational Wisdom. So, as I mentioned in my first video, grief does not abide by stages and rules. And when we're experiencing grief, we can experience different kinds of loss. The literature shows us that we can experience both primary and secondary loss. Primary loss is the actual thing or person that we've lost. Primary loss is the actual thing or person that we've lost. And the secondary loss is what we've lost as a result of the primary loss. For example, you may have lost a child. I've had some clients who would have lost a child and maybe experiencing grief as a result of that. And that's called a primary loss. And then the secondary loss is what they've lost as a result of that. For some persons, that secondary loss is the loss of a dream for grandchildren, or the loss of a dream for a huge family, or the loss of the dream for seeing that child graduate. So those are the things that we've lost as a result of this loss. And that's why it's so important that we practice witnessing mind skills and self-compassion when we're experiencing grief, because there's so many different domains of loss. Another kind of loss attached to grief is something called ambiguous loss. So sometimes people lose something physically, but they haven't lost it psychologically, or they've lost something psychologically, but they haven't lost something physically. For those of you who may be familiar with the work of Pauline Boss, you'd be familiar with this term that I said, ambiguous loss. An ambiguous loss is when something is partially present and also partially absent. So, for example, if you had someone dear to you who was kidnapped, that person would be physically absent but psychologically present. You will be experiencing grief, but this grief is a sort of frozen grief. Yeah. And it's very, very difficult to manage or navigate because there's no finite loss. Additionally, if someone who's dear to you may be experiencing Alzheimer's, that person is physically present but psychologically absent. In those cases, you're also experiencing that sort of frozen, stunted grief that you cannot complete. So that's another type of loss that may be very difficult to be with. As I mentioned before, sitting with self compassion and some other strategies would also be helpful for when dealing with ambiguous loss. In my next video, I'll share a few more strategies when dealing with ambiguous loss. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.